Hello, welcome to the Media Renaissance Show. I'm Michael Fiorentino, and today I go into a deep discussion with Pedro Oliveira, who's the CEO of Talent Protocol. Talent Protocol is doing some cool stuff around helping people establish and enhance their careers and projects by leveraging community and using blockchain with tokenization mechanics. I thought this would be a good fit to compare to some of Leonardo DaVinci's innovations, which include the creation of the first resume, or CV, which stands for Curriculum Vitae. Apparently that's how they say it in Europe. In America, we just say resume. Anyway, after reading Leonardo da Vinci's resume, we found out he was actually somewhat of a war hawk and a mercenary, and he liked inventing pretty things as well as destructive things. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Renaissance warfare, the Redux mentality, and how to achieve future goals with new technology. Pedro's a great guest because he says it like it is and he came prepared. Enjoy! Hello, welcome to the Media Renaissance Show. I'm Michael Fiorentino, and today I'm here with Pedro Oliveira. He is the CEO of Talent Protocol. Let's talk about how I met you. You pretty much came bursting in the doors on a Friday night with a bunch of friends one day. You guys might have had some Superbox or Sagres beers or something in your hand, and you were like, hey, I used to be in here. And I said, okay, well, who are you? And just as a quick preview to the listeners, we will relate this to the Renaissance and Da Vinci's first resume. And we'll talk about how it relates to Talent Protocol. But first of all, tell me what Talent Protocol is, and we can go through the history and also how did it start and how it's evolving. But I want to hear your role. Just tell me your whole life pretty much.
All right. I'm a Lisbon guy. That's it. I was born and raised in Lisbon, so I've watched pretty much this city go from a shithole back into, well, a shithole again. No, sorry. No, it's much better nowadays. Look, I've always been into computers, like buying different components back in the day when people actually did this shit, but buying components, assembling them, and then selling. You know, I like gaming. I hated chemistry. I never really enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed physics. And I always wanted to go to a course where I didn't have to deal with chemistry.
So you joined computer science to avoid chemistry specifically?
One of the angles. I didn't know exactly I want to go into that.
I feel like Leonardo da Vinci would be very disappointed with you because if he had a modern chemistry class...
No, in multiple angles. He would be very disappointed with me from all angles.
How else would Leonardo da Vinci be upset with you?
I should have started being like an entrepreneur, a founder much sooner than I did. I should have been more of an inventor myself. But I don't think Leonardo da Vinci, he would look at me, oh, it's just another homeless guy. So that's good. That's great. That's great. Let's keep it that way. But yeah, massive respect for his work. And you know, he did start the CV trend, right?
Yeah, so we will get into that. And you're one of the first guests who's actually done research on the Renaissance. So let's go back to Talent Protocol. And my first impressions of it were that it was LinkedIn for Web3. So, you know, Lisbon being very technology, startup focused. And, you know, there's this growing Web3 scene. I think in a lot of ways because the market was increasing and people were just becoming rich with cryptocurrencies and finding ways to reinvest it. And, you know, Web3 is much more than cryptocurrencies. It's blockchain technology, DAOs, smart contracts. It could be sort of considered the metaverse. We see these movements and progressions, but also a lot of dips, especially, you know, late COVID years. We saw a big dip and it really impacted it. But what I noticed was people were still building here.
When it comes to Lisbon, I would love to be able to tell you, man, this was all planned out, was massive strategy behind it. No, this was all coincidence. We are here, you are here, I'm here. Because I moved out of Portugal also to London, to Amsterdam, and I moved back because I was seeing like, okay, something is happening.
What year?
2015. And I moved to London, then Brexit happened. So it was great, and then it was shit. And then 17, I moved back.
Did you notice that when Brexit happened, was there a change in the mentality about how they were treating mainland Europeans?
So I was there on the day. I could tell you, like, I've never seen a city collectively feeling sad. It's part of the game. I take it as it is. I'm not mad. It's part of history. We'll look back in the day. We'll have an anti-Renaissance.
An anti-Renaissance
would be this period.
Okay, I don't want to be around when that's happening.
But you are.
Damn it. I would say that generally your movement from the UK back to Portugal, you weren't the only one doing this. This was actually a movement that happened with a lot of Portuguese, young, ambitious, they almost call it brain drain. People that were in here.
But this was a reverse one. Like, okay, cool, but we're back now. but also because of the world, you could work from Lisbon to the world, right?
The world became more interconnected. You could work remotely, but also the economy had improved in Lisbon after the last recession, and it improved quickly.
For some people, not for all people, which is now a problem. Is a lot of the local population is being left behind. If you're not working in tech, crypto, whatever, you cannot really afford it.
Everything's more expensive. The housing prices are off. There's increasing income inequality. This is happening all around the world, but Portugal specifically
because, again, there's no DaVinci brain in the governance.
Why don't you do it?
I've been asked to. I've had parties trying to bring me in, but...
Wait, you've had political parties try to...
Yeah.
Can you mention one?
No. But...
okay, were they on the
left
left
for
or the
my
right?
reputation. Mostly right wing. They know I'm more right leaning.
Libertarian.
Even though I don't look at the world in this left and right. I think that's so old school.
I would consider you very socially liberal, but I don't know your politics specifically.
Anarchist.
Anarchist, yeah. Well, that's everyone in Web 3.
But anyway, Lisbon as an ecosystem has been fascinating to watch from the outside and from the inside. I mean, it has evolved somewhat.
I was at the Startup Lisboa demo day in September, and it was in the Hub Creativo Beato.
Yeah.
And
I was there as well for like 15 minutes.
Okay, you came there for the cheese and the wine at the end, and then
just to say props to the Bout guys. I'm one of the early investors in Bout. They won the Best Pitch Award.
How do you spell Bout?
Bout. Bout. It's a boxing term, and basically they're building a boxing bag with the brain.
With the brain?
With the brain, yes. Like you have computer vision, AI, you have sensors on the bag. It really feels like you're beating someone up.
Okay.
Because of the way the bag was built. They won a bunch of awards. Time magazine, they are in the top 100 inventions of 2023. Like, I've used it. I love it. It's when you get into the flow, and you always get into the flow, like 60 minutes of workouts look like 10.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Plus, you're competing with other people. That's the part I love. You're competing with other people. They're also beating the bags.
So it's like Soul Cycle or spin classes, but with an intelligent punching bag.
And fun, because cycling is not native to human beings. You don't come out of your mother's womb cycling. But you do come out of your mother's womb, punching and kicking and stuff like that. So it's very visual to the human nature. And I think the biggest epidemic of humans is weight, fat. We're fucking fat, like I am. And we need to find a way to beat that. And the only way is to get people to move, to do things.
Well, we're very inspired by looking at bright screens and by sitting in comfortable desks, and we've made our lives very comfortable.
It's our nature. I mean, we had to save energy. The thing is, energy is all around us. It's cheap.
I used to do mixed martial arts, grappling as a teenager. Karate,
I used to do judo.
Judo, okay. Yeah. Mine was considered American style, so it was karate, aikido, jiu-jitsu, and it pretty much turned into MMA because that was popular at the time. And there is something about the flow states, and when you are fighting, and when you do it a lot, time does slow down. It's different than when you have your flight or fight response when you're having someone come at you. Like the manipulation of time and the way the brain picks up sensors. It sounds like Bout is doing this using AI.
It's a combination of AI, nudging, community as well, and competition. So
does it hit back?
With VR, it can. Like, imagine you and your friends, each one has a Bout bag at home, and you're beating zombies together. Like, competing with each other with a VR set.
It's always interesting how TV shows, movies, you can attack a zombie, a monster, an extraterrestrial, or a robot. Because there are different ratings. If you attack a human and there's blood, it actually spikes the media ratings, so less people can see it. But if it's, let's say, a monster and the blood is green, then everyone can attack it. And that's why the X-Men in the cartoons were always fighting Sentinels. They were robots.
I didn't know that.
Ninja Turtles are fighting the foot soldiers because the parents don't care if you're killing a lifeless being or a non-human being, which I think is a little messed up.
You didn't tell me I was going to learn something.
Why don't we, while we're talking about martial technology, why don't we talk about Leonardo DaVinci and the first resume? So I'll kick off this section because you did some research on his war military mechanics, which we got into. So let's see. Part of the research we did for this was looking up Talent Protocol. What is the resume of your current time, of the future, and With Leonardo da Vinci, he was actually considered the creator of the first resume. In 1482, he went to the Duke of Milan, Ludovico, and he sent him this handwritten letter, which they still have, and he said, actually, I could read to you what he said. And he says, "My illustrious lord, having now sufficiently considered the specimens of all..." So corporate bullshit talk also existed back then.
It's part of the game.
"Having now considered the specimens of all those who proclaim themselves skilled contrivers of instrument of war, and that the invention and operation of said instruments are nothing different from those in common use, I shall endeavor, without prejudice, to anyone else, to explain myself to your excellency," capital E. Yeah.
Right.
He's kind of like, "I'm awesome, here's all the things that I can do for you."
Hire me.
And so he's saying, I can build these efficient bridges, I could also make these kind of like heavy ones, I could take firearm, I could take water out of trenches, I can raise the height of banks, I know all sorts of mortars, I can make secret and torturous mines that are made without noise, I can make covered chariots that are unattackable, and I can make big guns.
Tanks, the first concept of tank. Yeah.
I didn't know that. "In times of peace, I believe I can give perfect satisfaction and equal of my own in architecture and composition of buildings." So he's like, I can, and also
Besides the war part, I
can carry out sculpture and marble, bronze, clay. I can make these war machines look really pretty. He's offering them these things, and so what was noted about this was that he was actually not saying, "Here's all the cool things I've done." He's saying, "Here's what I can do. Here is my potential."
One of the things that I really love is war history. So Renaissance, like during that period, war changed completely. New technology coming in and new tactics. And also governance of war changed.
What was war like before the Renaissance period? So what was medieval war like? The Crusades, right?
Crusades was a project or several projects between being one, but it was mostly horse warfare and then counter tactics to horse warfare, and archery was big as well. But so horse was like the one to take down. So before 1300s, you all see the movie Braveheart.
Yeah.
The pikes against the horses. So horse was the dominating force. Like even Portugal, we had the Batalha de Aljubarrota against the Spanish, and it was about like creating this kind of like a way to stop this charge, the horses, the caltrops for the horses, all these things was all around. How do we dominate horses? It's like you put it on the floor, like with pikes, so the horses, when they go through, they really hurt themselves.
Damn. Yeah. Well, also the word a knight, we call it a knight in English, but it's in Portuguese, it's cavaleiro. Just to make the connection for the English-speaking and non-Portuguese speaking audience, cavaleiro is cavallo, it's horse.
It's a horse master.
So it's a horser. You're a horser.
Yeah. This is where we're coming from. Horses dominate. And the Mongols really took that to another level with the horses and archers. Like the only places where Mongols didn't do well were either because their enemies replicated their tactics, like the feign retreat tactic, which is very famous that they use. Like they feign the retreat and then they move back and then they kick ass. So that was it. But also in places where they couldn't use the horses, like mountains and stuff like that.
I gotta say, first of all, the feign and retreat, that's like a pivot in startup worlds.
Sure. No, I mean, in a way it is, but it all happened during the battle. Right? So it's a very
real-time moment. You better get stuff together or you might die.
Yes, but in the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and lots of horses. And I cannot really imagine how messy that was. But anyway, before the horse, by the way, it was basically the biggest change was gunpowder. Right? And the Spanish, also learning from the Swiss, because Swiss during the Italian wars were like super mercenaries. Everyone wanted the Swiss to fight for them, right? And so they had the pikes. They were big men from the mountains.
A pike's like a stick with a
like
pointy
a super
thing?
pike,
like
no
a
horse
spear.
could like a spear, right? And so the era of pike and shot came through, which is a combination of horse, pike, and shot arquebusers, like big guns, boom, and cannons as well, by the way. So this completely changed the way that war was done. Imagine this at the end of the Renaissance period, like you'd have like horse riders with guns. So that's like, okay, this is new. But if you go from like the beginning, like the Italian wars, that beginning-ish of Renaissance, and then to the end, which is the Spanish-Dutch War, more to the end of the Renaissance period.
When's that? Do you know?
We can look it up.
We're going to put it right over here.
Yeah, we'll put the dates somewhere in this.
I'm going to have a voiceover. This is the voiceover. The Italian Wars happened between 1494 and 1559, and there were actually 8 wars that happened for like 4-year and 2-year increments.
There's a huge difference, like between Italian Wars was mostly evolution in tactics and what we've talked about before, but also mostly mercenaries. And it was like local powers with some larger powers, the Spanish, the Holy Roman Empire, the French, the papacy. It was very messy, but local powers trying to get some more land and politics, local politics mostly. That's why it's called the Italian Wars. And that evolved until the end. It was more like religion and big powers like monarchies. It was more, it evolved to government.
City-states and monarchies.
And it's fascinating to see like how much the war mechanics, war politics changed during that period. Yeah, I'm just thinking like the countries concept is so human. If all humans died right now, what is a country?
Well, yeah, there weren't countries in the Renaissance. There were city-states and there were kingdoms and monarchies.
Regions and but if all humans died during the Renaissance, those are mental constructs.
Yeah, those are lines that
land.
we drew, and sometimes they're geographic areas that happen to correspond.
And these tribes, stuff like
Da Vinci actually lived in quite a few places. So he was born right outside of Florence. Actually, they say supposedly in Vinci, because he's Da Vinci, but also grew up in Florence. He was an apprentice there. He was kind of like, he was a kid who was artistically talented, and they gave him education even though he wasn't wealthy necessarily. They said, okay, this guy's smart. Let's give him reading, writing, math. Let's kind of like throw him in a lot of things. And he was painting for other people. So he was doing the work of other artists. And also, he's kind of this hybrid arts and science person just because he had unlimited curiosity.
Yeah, but patrons, basically.
Patrons,
supporting
the Medici family
that
supported a lot of people in the Renaissance.
With talent protocol. Going back to the talent protocol topic, which we've been avoiding this whole period.
Let's talk about war and international politics instead. Da Vinci moved from Florence, and he also went to Milan. He went to Rome. He was going to live in the Vatican for a little while. Like, he kind of just went wherever someone was going to support him.
He's a mercenary in a way.
He was a mercenary in that way.
That's the spirit of the early Renaissance period.
Yeah, and those were all interrelated, but somewhat separate kingdoms. He was going for whoever was going to let him do his fun projects.
He was chasing the money, sorry. No, for sure not.
Yeah, I don't think he was in it for the money, but he always seemed to have enough resources or dead bodies to open up and look at. You know, they would just like give him bodies to experiment. On a related topic that is a good transition into talent protocol, he's known for having notebooks and writing and drawing and sketching, and he also had to-do lists. And there was a couple things that were interesting in his to-do list. They weren't just, I'm going to go to the mall today or whatever and buy something. It was more, I'm going to look at pig's lungs, and when they expand, do they go vertically or all around? And how do the tendons of an eye work? Or I'm going to map out all of Milan and the suburbs and get a dimension of the sizes. So he was just curious about so many different things. Scientists have looked back and said he probably had ADHD because he would jump from topic to topic, and he also wouldn't finish all of his work. Like the Mona Lisa and some of his paintings are so expensive and famous because of what he did in his life, but also because he didn't finish a lot. He wasn't pumping out things left and right. He would be commissioned to make a bronze horse statue, and he'd spend years studying the anatomy of a horse, and then he wouldn't even finish it. You know, but he knew all the things about a horse.
He was an inventor, curious mind. You know, it's part of the game. And he did come up with a lot of things, even though if they weren't unfinished or whatever, it's fine. It's fine. What matters is like he's trying, testing new theories, looking at things with the brain of a child, not assuming stuff, testing things, having fun. So I love that. We should have more people like that. Yeah, you could argue that you have some of Da Vinci in you, because I reckon he was like a lone individual as well, even though he would engage with a lot of people.
And he was a homo, so there's that. Vitruvian
I didn't know that, but cool.
He almost got killed for it, so yeah. He wasn't found guilty, though.
Guilty of what?
He had an apprentice. Some things went down.
Okay. Well, he was having fun.
That was a Me Too moment, maybe. I don't know.
Me too, I guess. But anyway, DaVinci is peace man, right? He's not known for the war, even though the CV was to apply to a war engineering position. He's not known for that, even though he did a lot of designs for what is known the first tank.
And he tried to create flying contraptions and all this
So
other stuff.
he's known for like amazing inventions, right? And during wartime is when a lot of inventions are made. Like,
well, yeah, World War I and II were areas of
huge.
fast progression because you're taking a government that's all of a sudden saying, oh, let's not just worry about everyday issues, let's create this. And another argument I would say is after World War II, you have a lot of countries saying, oh, we can put this money toward war things. Why can't we have free healthcare? And all of a sudden, Europe gets free healthcare in a system because the government could massively retool itself if it needs to. We forgot to do that in the U.S., but you guys did it. With mixed results.
With mixed results, yeah. It was going well. Nowadays, it's not so much.
The Portuguese health system's a little overtaxed.
Yeah. Right now, it's crazy. And also, like, it's incredible because this is a lesson, the starter lesson, I believe, which is the budget for the healthcare system in Portugal has increased. But then the quality, the delivery has decreased. So I think this plays to the fact that if you feed money into a large beast doesn't know
how to be efficient.
Yeah.
Maybe AI will fix all that.
Sure.
And keep everyone with their jobs and create universal basic income and all that stuff.
But look, when it comes to tech, there's always like the positive view on tech or a negative view on tech. Like.
Anyway, so the first impression I had of Talent Protocol is that it was LinkedIn, but LinkedIn was always looking at your past, and conventional corporate resumes are always about your past. And this was about your future potential. And that it was also about staking in other people, and you could mint your own token, which I thought was really cool. And I was a little late to mint I was going to call them
Did you mint in the end?
I think I'm waiting for it to be open again to allow it to happen because I think it's so cool. It's like a domain name. So I wanted to have Ren tokens, like $REN, like Media Renaissance tokens. I'm Michael Fiorentino, damn it. I'm going to have a Renaissance token and make it more about what I'm doing here and some other projects, and also encouraging this polymath, the Renaissance person, the idea of someone who's doing multiple things. But that is another aspect about Talent Protocol that I think still exists. It's not just about what you're doing in work, it's what you're doing in life, right? I'm not making up a fake story to sound good to my boss in a corporate environment, which is what I associate LinkedIn with.
When it comes to Talent Protocol, I think it connects with everything we've talked about until now. Look, first of all, we focus on the future goal. We're not focused on killing LinkedIn. If anything, we're complementary to what LinkedIn does. So LinkedIn tells you the story of who you are, what you've done. We want to tell the story, or at least be there of what you're going to do, right? That's where the goals come in, updates on the goals, all these things. We're going to double down on that. So having goals, having your accountability buddies that can bet on you. So having a more game-like experience to how you achieve things. With AI as well, obviously.
What are you doing with AI? Tell me.
The thing is, this is the secret to life. A lot of people are fucking dumb. And if you realize this, and you could go to the evil side and make a lot of money, or you can help them out, be smarter. Okay?
Wait. The average person, or not the average person,
a lot of
people on this planet,
they haven't been going to the brain gym.
Okay. They're not self-propelling to learn and be curious and adapt.
Their muscle up here is not exercised.
It's going through a routine.
Yeah. They're like almost like zombies sometimes. Okay? So if you realize this, you can, in a evil way, take advantage of that. Like, for instance, casinos, the raspadinhas for the old people.
Yeah, lotteries. Lottery tickets. You could say digital social media addiction. You could say Facebook for boomers.
You could say most of the things, even coffee industry.
Coffee industry, fast food.
We don't need coffee. We don't need any of those things.
I think I do.
Well,
you just had a coffee. What are you talking about?
I have a dumb side. Everybody has a little bit of it.
So there's kind of like our base human desires for comfort and short-term pleasure versus long-term
You could take advantage of that. To be more DaVinci-like, it means that you need to be curious, you need to be very communicative as well, have critical thinking, all these things. I think it was the 4 C's. So communication, critical thinking, curiosity, and another C, whatever.
Quick note here, the 4 C's are critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. I think when we look at AI and the human brain is amazing and adaptable, and it's incredible that we could be born and within 2 years we've just created this malleable thing that self-inputs to... The average human still has done an incredible thing just to exist, to speak, to learn, to live. And then there's the question of free will and choice, and what do you want to do, and also what does society tell you to do? And so one of the movements from the Renaissance era was this embracing of humanism and saying, oh, who are we as people? Oh, we're not just workers for some king over there. We can actually take a step back. And part of what ignited that was looking at ancient Greek and Roman works and sort of rediscovering it.
It was an era of human expansion, like people were getting smarter. Let's put it like this.
There was a lot of cross-pollination, and also there was just money pouring in these places and education.
It was a super rich area as well, so it helped with this. I mean, after the Renaissance, and you can go into the Prussian school, where the people were being scholarized to be loyal to the state.
Well, isn't that what our modern education system was in like the 1940s? Like be a good factory worker?
I think we need the new Renaissance. Because we have a Prussian school method. My next startup is going to be on education some years from now. I love that. I think it's a mess. And now we're talking about Renaissance. I'm thinking we need a new Renaissance period for specifically education, for people's brains.
So I want to point out something. You're in
we
a
need
startup.
a belt bag for the brain. Because people are fucking dumb and stupid. Right?
Okay.
That's it. Not all, of course.
So one thing
if you're watching this, you're probably not.
So you're talking about a company you invested in. You're talking about your startup, which has had a lot of growth in the past 3 years in terms of like development. And you're also, your brain at the same time is jumping to, oh, what am I going to do in my next startup?
Yeah, and if you go on my profile on Talent Protocol, we have it as a goal. That's going to be my next startup. I want to do something in educational technology. I don't know what yet. I don't want to know. Because after Talent Protocol, I want to take a sabbatical period and let my brain fly. There's a site called Learning Sabbatical. There's multiple ways to go into diffuse mode and learning. But I like, the last time I did it, I had like a learning program for myself. I had an accountability buddy. He was keeping me in check and I was keeping him in check for, it only lasted for 3 months, but it was good while it lasted. Good. I wanted to do a 1-year sabbatical, but then Talent Protocol came in and then I fucked up Philippe's sabbatical as well because I had a chat with him and said, damn, I cannot do mine. I said, sorry, bro. At least I did 3 months of mine. And yeah, so going back into the AI part, people, not all people, but a big chunk of people don't know how to write goals.
Okay, how do you write goals?
AI. Let's put AI to help them out. Okay, do you have any understanding of what you want to do? Okay, I want to do that. Okay, let's put that in actual proper writing, because there's not that many goals that people can follow. If you think about it, you can cluster the goals into many different things. There's a huge cluster on health. Mm-hmm. Like I want to lose weight, I want to stop smoking. Those are like 2 huge clusters within the health cluster. There's other things like I want to start a new business. If you really think about it, you can cluster all of these things, because all of this stuff with AI, I mean, LLMs, all that. Machines are learning from what we've produced, making it better. But machines are not DaVinci yet.
Not
They're not inventors.
Thinking. It is taking thoughts from different places and combining them in new ways. But it's they say it's like a mouse brain in terms of the complexity.
It's not an inventor in the sense of like, I need a job, I'm going to invent a CV. They don't do this.
The spark of creativity.
Yes, DaVinci wasn't even thinking about the CV itself, but he did it. And it's like, oh, it's a new invention. Great. So they don't do it yet.
So I remember in the United States, Theodore Roosevelt was a president who was kind of like this man-child who did create the national park system. Good for him. But he also loved to just get in wars because he didn't want the American population to become fat and lazy. And so he said, no, we need a good war. So it's like, wait, you're going to be violent and kill people to make people have a fitness regimen?
That's cowboy mentality, right?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of business-minded people, like maybe the ones who aren't so great for society, they also think, no, you need to have an ambition, you need to have a goal, you need to have a hustle, or else you're a useless person. And that's kind of in contrast to this universal basic income thought, where it's, hey, you've survived, you've won the lottery by just existing, and you've lived up to 5 years old, how do we make the systems around your life so then you could play and be creative and do things. So there are these two trains of thoughts. One is that you need adversity, challenges, and you better be ambitious or you're useless. And there's the other version that's saying, you exist, we can live in a utopia, why don't you do that? And so in your way, you're kind of playing to both worlds, because you're saying, we have people who maybe they're not trying to change the world, but they want to quit smoking, so let's help them do that. But you're also saying, we want you to do the thing, let's get you there faster, or let's get you there better.
The book Atomic Habits, but it's about habit creation or habit deletion, also known as addictions. Basically, what we're doing is just playing with the toolkit of Atomic Habits, which is accountability buddies, and creating a game around it where you say, look, if I don't go to the gym 5 times this week, I'll pay you $100K.
Your people put a rubber band and they snap it every time they say a negative
something
thought about
like
themselves.
that. So we're playing with that in a way that when we say you'll never build alone, it can also be you'll never achieve your goals alone. No, we've always focused a lot on builders. Now that's all our brands.
Coders, builders, startup people.
Designers. I mean, the way the product is built can be a degenerate gambler can go there. I want to bet on that token or that. I mean, they can use that.
Okay, you're going to get a degenerate gambler to join Talent Protocol and bet and stake on people.
No, or set their own goals and get other degenerates to bet on their goals if he's going to be right or not. So it's interesting in that sense because human nature.
The irony here?
And going back to your line of thought of these two poles of competition,
utopian laziness versus
these two, right? I think humans have both in their DNA. So one is compete to survive, and you're like, that guy's dick is bigger than mine. I'm gonna beat the hell out of him.
One of the oldest Portuguese sports or activities is jogo de pau. Have you ever heard of this?
Jogo de pau.
Jogo de pau.
In the north.
It's in the north, and it's like basic stick fighting. So like I looked up bow staff, like weapons and forms.
They have this. They put these masks.
It's like fencing, but it's very caveman-like. It's very rustic. You have a stick and you're just slapping, and some people are good at it, but it's not a beautiful dance. You know, it's men with a stick going and doing. We should do that one day. We should play jogo de pau in the north.
No, I've heard about it, and they also have these Celtic vestings in the car just for fun,
like a reenactment of old traditions
before the Romans came in.
Yeah, that's true. Because
in the north they had more Celtic things.
They still do.
They still do.
It's interesting because it does speak to the subconscious fears or like old stories and mythologies that are handed down, and people are still making masks and they're still jumping out and doing that.
But it's interesting in that sense. It survived.
But the question is, if you attack them, would their blood be green? And would the media rating go up?
Probably the media rating would go up. I'm not sure. So all this connect together. So one big factor is like we're building different apps that people can use to progress their careers, to achieve success, for builders to achieve success. So one of them is the one that you know, which is the main app of Talent Protocol, which has evolved to become this goals-driven app, which I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's a great way to help people achieve their goals, is together. Let's do it together, but with the component of competition, gambling a little bit, but also at the same time, you're doing it for the right motives. Most people are.
I would assume your community it's kind of new and fresh, and people are very positive there. It's not, there's no Twitter trolls on Talent Protocol.
Not yet, at least. It's kind of positive, and also some things we're gonna do. So you've done your update and your goal there, and I went and reacted. We're gonna have like reactions that can be financial as well, almost like the DaVinci had his patrons. So if I like what you're doing, I can react to you in a financial manner. Like, okay, I like that. Here's some tokens for you. You have the main app, the goals-driven app. We've built another app called Builderify, which you cannot launch your token anymore because we phased out that. That was how we started. It didn't really work out.
You guys are pretty ruthless and I would say disciplined with creating new features and sunsetting features.
Oh, yeah, man. We were bad at it, but we got really good at it like 6 months ago. We call it the Redux mentality, Latin for evolution, evolutionary, the Redux. But in essence, like just murder the hell. If it didn't work or is not as good as you wanted it, destroy it, because it will reduce the amount of thoughts that you put into it, that you can put into new things. So it increases your invention factor.
And I have to give you props. You do share a lot of this thinking and these updates on your community calls.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Zoom call that ends up going on YouTube, right? And is it on Zoom?
No, we do it on Discord. We changed because the YouTube again Redux is taking too much time. It wasn't really worth it. Now we have more people on Discord, so we changed. We just killed that.
But I find most like startup ecosystems or communities, I'm not watching videos to hear about how they're updating their features. Maybe I'll get an article, maybe I'll check every once in a while, but for you guys, it's interesting because you see it evolve in real time, and you also want your builders to do that, so you do it as a company too.
Exactly. We're open source, we're building in public, so these apps that we've built, we already have other apps that are going to come into the ecosystem, not built by us. Why? Because what we're building in essence is an ecosystem for reputation. In the end, we could say we sell unique reputation data. That's it. So everything that these apps do, they can write into our social graph. And every person can have a talent passport, which we haven't launched yet, but we will.
Talent passport, I love
talent
that.
Passport. So imagine like it's the DaVinci CV, but on chain with your reputation from the different apps that are part of the ecosystem. So there's different stakeholders. One stakeholder is the builder that wants to create a new app, a new tool, or a new thing. It doesn't need to be technical. It can be a new event or a new program or whatever. And this person can consume our protocol data. So we have an API they can consume, they can have access to the data. Obviously, it's going to be limited. They can have like not unlimited access
You're
to
not
the
going to
data.
get personally identifiable information if you don't need to.
Exactly.
And,
So there's different levels of abstraction there, but all of this is very technical, but it makes sense in the Web3 space, but also in the Web2 space, where you have multiple APIs and you consume data, and those APIs charge per access, basically. So with builders, we don't want to charge per access, but with the apps, if they get up to a certain level of growth within the ecosystem, we can charge.
That is reliant on the ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We can charge for them to write on the passport. So for instance, Builderify, which is another app that we've created, we competed in the hackathon at ETH Singapore. We didn't go there with many expectations, to be honest, but I'll be a bit cocky here, but we absolutely stole the show. We destroyed the place. We killed it. We murdered the place. The speaker, when she was giving out the awards, was like, Builderify again. Like, we won 4 awards. It was amazing. Actually, ETH Singapore is like a conference and a hackathon.
So a hackathon is where people go in, they're going to usually spend multiple days building something
from scratch. You cannot bring code that is written before when it starts like from zero to something.
And then you have a team, and then you create something.
You create something that gets evaluated by judges, and also there's like multiple awards from multiple companies. And we got one from Polygon, we got one from Mantle, one from another one from Airstack. And we really like Airstack CEO Jason is really good friends of ours nowadays, and that relationship started there. And it was amazing. We built something, again, following the Redux mentality. We just axed our token model, and we're like, okay, we got to do something, because that's what a startup does. You have a certain amount of runway. You got to experiment as much as you can until you go out of money. Obviously, with a balance, not experiment everything, but invent stuff.
So you have a lot of like DaVinci's half-finished paintings with your old features, but you throw them out so you can build the next Mona Lisa.
Maybe someone will say, oh, that code was from those guys. Okay, that's interesting. Or not. Maybe it just falls into oblivion.
So this is a module that's going to plug into Talent Protocol, but it's separate,
It's separate, so it has its own app. It's basically a Q&A app. Like you go there, you can ask people questions, you can see the answers to questions that other people asked. In order to do that, you need to buy someone's keys. So it's a bit of a Patreon OnlyFans mix up with Quora.
Wow, okay.
Honestly, it's a new thing. In essence, it's a Q&A system.
And what are other people going to build in this ecosystem?
So we have new apps around recruitment, around education. So we want to be known as an ecosystem that bets on education and HR tech. That's going to be our focus.
That's
so
a
the
good
builders that want to build in this space, you're welcome to join Talent Protocol. So that's one of the stakeholders. The other stakeholder is the passport holders. We have 200K people. Most of them join Talent Protocol. They will have their own passport. That passport will be their reputation passport, in essence. that is interoperable. They can use that wherever they want. They don't have to use it just within the Talent Protocol ecosystem. Well, in essence, it tells their on-chain reputation story. And that's another persona. Of
Wow,
that.
mine would be a mess.
You can always choose how to, the front end, you can always...
You can curate it, you can prioritize it.
Yeah, as a user, you can do that.
So maybe
everything is on-chain, though.
Yeah.
So you cannot hide things that you've done, but you can choose what your portfolio will be.
There's
what
transparency.
your passport looks like.
I think I had one where I wrote a goal about getting into an accelerator program. I kept getting rejected, and I had to update, like, oops, didn't happen, and now that's on a chain, right? So I've always been rejected, and it will be noted in the stars,
It's
right?
fine. It's fine. And, maybe the stars will be kind to you because of all those rejections, hopefully. I don't want to go into astrology, though. Having said that, so you have different apps in this space, HR and educational technology. You have the builders building those apps. Obviously, some of the apps will be maintained by the core team at Talent Protocol. You have the protocol itself, which is maintained by the core team of Talent Protocol. So that's another stakeholder, the core team. And when we launch the token, and we'll go into the token economy in a minute, but when we launch the token, we'll use the raised funds to also set up a DAO treasury. And so this DAO, all the token holders can participate and choose which projects, which builders they want to support.
Oh, okay. So DAO is decentralized autonomous organization. We've talked about it on many episodes of the Media Renaissance show.
The best thing that you can do right now is on BuilderFi, which is one of the apps. You can go there and create your key so that people can ask you questions. And that key is a bounding curve.
A bounding
curve. So basically, it observes a certain economy pattern. The price increases according to a bounding curve. Every transaction with your key, you get 5% of that. The protocol gets 2.5%. All transactions are, we've launched BuilderFi on Base, so all transactions use Ethereum, ETH. Talent Protocol was launched on Celo, and then we also added Polygon.
Polygon's on there, yeah.
Everything we built on Talent Protocol, and again, we've been public, transparent about this since day one. We're multi-chain. We believe in a world where it's like this. If you want to watch a movie, does it matter if it's on Netflix, Prime, or HBO? It doesn't matter. They have the rights to show that movie into chains. Let's call it these chains, to video streaming platforms, right? It's the same thing. I believe that apps will live across chains. The compounded value will be across chains.
Can we assume that they're EVM or Ethereum compatible?
Right now, we are Ethereum focused. It doesn't have to be. I think like the user, like when we talk about keys, asking questions, answering questions, who cares if it's crypto or not in the backbone? Who cares? The next evolution for crypto is the era of the apps is coming. I don't care. I do not care. It's where we're going.
Okay.
Where we're going.
No, I agree that Web3 needs a little refresh. It needs a user accessible layer on top where people can interface and not have to type code to do
Connect
basic
to fucking
things.
wallet. No one cares. I mean, it could always be there for power users. When you become like a Power Ranger, power user in this case, and you get crypto, okay, now connect to fucking wallet. But until then, you can use it.
But Talent Protocol is one of the first social networks I've seen where you have a username, password, and you connect wallet.
Yeah, I mean, but we're trying to abstract as much as possible from that. Look, crypto, man, we could spend like actual weeks talking about crypto, but summing it up, a lot of money was pumped into crypto, VC money, especially into infrastructure, for the past few years. Guess what? Now we have better infrastructure. Voila. And things that you couldn't do in the past when we first launched, that the experience would be clunky and connect the wallet this, chain that. It's like, what? No. Who cares which blockchain something is on? Why would you care if Talent Protocol is on Celo or Poly or whatever? It doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is achieving your goals, writing proper goals. You're not like the common human being, so you actually know how to write your goals. But if you don't, we have some AI to support you there. Getting your accountability buddies in, betting on you, against you, in favor of you achieving your goal. That's also the gamification part to move you to achieve your goal in a way. That's what matters. What matters is like apps that with Q&A to improve the knowledge sharing between builders. That's what matters. New apps on recruitment, other things. That's what matters. Crypto comes as a tool that allows proper gamification, financial gamification. When we talked about gamification in the past, because this used to be a trend like 6-7 years ago, everybody would be talking
very
about
Web 2 gamification.
Gamification, like if you gamified your app, like Jesus Christ. I mean, it was a trend for like, I can imagine in board meetings like at massive companies. So what are we doing when it comes to gamification? Like okay, we have this consultant selling us multi-million-dollar contracts for that. Anyway, I think crypto is the actual financial gamification, but without you thinking about it.
Well, it's tokenization.
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes we've made when we came into Web3, and we are not Web3 founders. Well, now we are. But
you're a Web3 founder. I'm sorry.
Now I am, but when I came in, I wasn't. I've earned my fair share of mistakes, but I am a veteran founder in the HR tech space. Well, in essence, I wanted to build something that allowed humans to be part of someone's career growth. And tokenization was the way, right? And we tested it. We launched it. We made a lot of money with it. But in the end, we had to exit because it wasn't really working in the bear market.
Let's talk about bear and bull market.
Look, there's a big feature of crypto, which is speculation. And it's used most of the times for scams and stuff like that, and that's bad and gives a bad name to crypto. The thing is, it's not really a bug. It's a feature if it's created with a good heart and if it's gamified in the right manner.
You mean if the mechanics and the incentives and the benefits that are given to someone?
Exactly. If the token economy makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That's what I meant by the speculation side. I'm not a crypto guy. Now I guess I am, but I wasn't. I came into crypto, I despised that part.
Yeah.
Call me arrogant or too humble. I think you can look at it from both.
Which would I call you? No, let's skip that.
You can call me whatever you want, honestly. Because one of the biggest tricks of founders when they're pitching is to look at your audience and don't give a fuck about what they're thinking. And just speak your mind.
I get told the opposite. They're like, stop talking about what you want. Cater
when you go on
completely
stage,
every person. On the
what's
stage,
your trick to avoid stage freaking out?
But usually what I end up doing is memorizing, and then when I go off script, that's when the real moments happen.
Yeah, but you know in your brain kind of like the line of thought that you need to.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do some segues, but then you always
And also
back.
being able to read the audience, see what they're reacting to, what are they excited about, having some interactivity.
My game plan when I go on the stage is only about 10% of the audience really knows what I'm talking about. The other 90%, half of them are looking at their phones. And the others are half-wits.
You're talking to the 10% who are going to love it.
So honestly, my thought process is I don't give a fuck. I'm doing this for myself. If they like it, good. If they don't, fuck them. And this really removes all the stress from me. And so I can be me, just without being afraid of repercussions. Because I think most of the people's like, oh, what are they going to think about me and what I'm saying? But if you don't care, you're good.
Well, you might not hit on the goals of what you're supposed to be there for, but at least you'll feel good about yourself after. Yeah,
but obviously because you train before, that line of thought, even if you do some, free spirit kind of
wandering.
Thing. Yeah, wandering. Even if you do that, if you train, you have that line of thought. You say, okay, I want for the 10% that actually understand what I'm talking about, I want them to come out and talk to me afterwards about this. That's it.
Okay.
The other 90%, I do not care about them. What they're thinking, what they're doing, or whatever. And this removes all the stress. It allows me to be calm, confident on stage. This is my framework.
I don't think of you as someone who has a lot of filters.
No, I don't.
I think that's why I invited you on the show. I was like, wow, you're gonna say some stuff.
All right.
Okay, so just to summarize the staking gamification, so what can we do now on Talent Protocol? What will we be able to do in the future?
So right now you can go on talentprotocol.com, create a profile, and play around with the goals, career updates, and talking about Redux, we're gonna do another Redux. We're gonna cut the fat out of that animal. So it's gonna be a lot more focused on goals.
Okay.
Goals. It's gonna be a goals app. If you really wanna have fun, also go on Builderfy, create your profile, set up your keys, start asking questions, start buying other people's keys to ask questions, see answers, just have fun with it.
Okay.
So there's two things you can do right now. What you'll be able to do in the future, in 4 or 5 months, you'll be able to set up your passport, and you can use that to use the different apps within the ecosystem. And at some point, we'll be launching the token. You're listening, I'm not saying, but some people have said that if you have a passport, if you're active, there'll be some tokens airdrop to you in the future. But I've been told, I was walking down the street, some guy came to me and whispered, hey, airdrop, Tal, it's gonna happen.
Okay, yeah, and your tokens are called Tau.
Tal, yeah.
Well, Tau makes sense.
Tau.
When am I
Shortcut
going to be able to
Tau.
make my Ren tokens? Is that done? Did I miss that?
I think you missed it. Maybe a new app comes in the future with tokenization, like more in that front.
Okay.
Mostly for creators, which I think makes sense for you. There's other apps doing some interesting stuff in the space. Maybe we can attract them to our ecosystem. Because, I mean, we're going to grow. Like, why would someone build their app and use our token and our passport and writing to be part of this reputation economy? It's a great space for them to grow as well. Like,
Yeah.
if you come in and you have like 200,000 eyes on your app, that's amazing.
I mean, people might actually watch this episode of the Media Renaissance show because you're in it. One thing I want to talk about that relates to income inequality is you've done some programs where you're sort of investing in people who are in other parts of the world who don't have as much financial resources, and it's almost like you're trying to find the new Da Vincis.
My ticket to heaven.
These wonderkins, these people, that's your ticket to heaven. I just remember I got some messages to vote for people and invest in them so that they could go to, I think it was ETH Istanbul. Tell me about that and your motivations with a more global mentality.
Basically, we take out like super high potential builders to attend their first Web3 hackathon, IRL. These events happen all around the world, like the ETH Singapore, ETH CC Paris, ETH Denver, ETH Rio, ETH Bogota. There's other events like Dev Connect, DevCon, Token 2049. There's so many events happening. Some of them are just conferences. Some of them are more like bullshit marketing conferences, like Web Summit.
I like those. Wait, I like those.
Flight tickets are expensive. Accommodation is expensive. And so we created this scholarship program called Takeoff, where we bring like high potential talent to hackathons, Web3 hackathons. It's their gateway into Web3. We bring them to a moment where there's so many opportunities happening around that place. All right. And so it's been great. I mean, we've brought so many people from all over the world.
How do they get picked?
So that was how we created the voting system, because it was always a pain in the ass.
A lot of
With all
pressure.
these guys, how did you pick? What was the model like? Blah 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 blah. It's like, Jesus Christ, we didn't do the on-chain kind of on-chain voting with Snapshot. Even that got gamed, and then we had to remove the bad actors, stuff like that. Even that was shitty. But we tried multiple ways, and that this is the beauty of letting go of your own legacy. How can we make it a game? With voting, the way for you to vote on someone is with the token. So the token doesn't exist yet, but we have it virtually on Talent Protocol, because you have your wallet and you can have virtual tokens. So we did that in Bogota, Rio, Paris, Barcelona, Denver, Istanbul. People need to apply. They have their application, like why they should be picked. And then they also need to do some homework, engaging other people who have tokens to vote for them. Almost like finding patrons, convincing patrons to vote for them.
Where does this money come from, by the way?
So either use it from our own treasury or we have sponsors.
Right.
Each scholar costs around 3K. The biggest cost is the flight, by the way.
And then I think you mentioned that visas are also an issue sometimes.
Visas are a pain in the ass.
Talk about digital passports.
It's really painful. And even like, look, one thing is the voting. We have like a top 10. Those 10 people get access to the scholarship. But sometimes it happens that because of visa issues, 2 or 3 of them can't make it. So the 11, 12, and 13, they will have access. And actually, in terms of diversity, when we started using the voting, it created by default some diversity. But also it's meritocracy in a way. Still, what is the catch? The catch is whenever you vote for someone, your tokens will go to a prize pool. And in the end, that prize pool gets redistributed back to the voters who voted for the people who won.
So if you voted in the person that ended up getting picked, it's like ranked stack voting in
a
political
way,
rules.
Except for 10% of the prize pool goes back to the...
So you can make money by betting on the winner.
Yes.
Well, not money, but tokens, because it's a virtual token. But
the whole group at the hackathon was amazing. Again, high potential builders. Having said that, we're doing another one for East Denver. We're going to experiment around the voting system again. So we use this also as a way to innovate and try different things. So for the East Denver, it should come out in January. And the voting in the future, it will be an app, a standalone app. It's almost like a casino for talent, in a way.
A casino for talent.
It's almost like that, but for good, greed for good.
Greed
for good.
Greed for good. I think you said Greek for good. Okay. Greed for good.
Yeah, because everybody knows the Greeks were bad. So like, no, sorry.
Good greed. Okay.
Good greed. Maybe that's the name of the app. Good greed.
Good greed. Yeah.
It.
Like good grief.
Good grief.app. That's a model that's really engaging. All the stakeholders have something to win. The voters, they're speculating. It incentivizes people to vote early. Like, I'm going to vote because the cost of that vote is the minimum.
And it's easier to win if you vote on someone who you already know is winning. And
but how do you know when the voting begins? You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. So anyway, it incentivizes people. But what happened in some of these votes were like, at the end, there's some people that really got emotionally engaged with the people participating in the votes, that in the end they would spend a lot to make sure that person won. Even though after a certain amount of votes, it doesn't compensate financially to vote anymore. And so I remember in one of the votes, I think it was for Istanbul, in the last 5 minutes of the vote, the top 10 ranking changed multiple times because the whales were competing to make sure that their candidate won. That's a form of patron.
That is.
Because they were losing money. In that moment, the one stakeholder winning money was the house, the protocol.
And you didn't expect it, but you were able to observe it.
Yeah, we weren't expecting this behavior at all. But the thing is, like, people, not only are they protecting their investment, but they create this bond with that person. So I really want this person to go. To have the scholarship opportunity.
How do you see the future of recruitment for mainstream companies and also for startups changing in this kind of ecosystem? Maybe not exactly what you guys are doing, but for other people.
Talent is the most underutilized asset in the world.
Talent meaning like natural ability or potential skill?
Brains. Brains are the most underutilized asset.
The adaptability of it. Because like talent versus skill versus experience, those are different.
It's about having the right people doing the right things at the right time. This does not happen most of the times. So we are wasting opportunity. Look, if you look at the different assets in the world, like water, air, oil,
internet.
Food, internet, I mean, they can be underutilized, but when you talk about talent, people, it's like this, like trying to simplify for nowadays. Imagine you have a house that's called a purpose house, and you have another house which is a no-purpose house. A big chunk of the humans are living in the no-purpose house. They're trying to find their way. I hope they're trying to find their way to the purpose house.
A life with purpose.
A life with purpose. Brain aligned, incentivized brain to do purposeful things.
To learn new skills, to get experiences, to expand, to explore, to be curious.
most of the people are getting there. Many people are not even trying. And that's why I say talent is the most underutilized asset in the world, is because most of the people are still in the no purpose house. Many people are trying to find their way. Only a few lucky ones are in the purpose house.
So what does the world look like if we have millions of more people living a life of purpose versus kind of wandering aimlessly?
First off, we'll be less dumb, if you want to put it in a positive way, collectively more intelligent. And I think that's a good enough thing to try. So this is like the macro perspective. When you ask me that question, what's in the future for companies? This is the big problem of humanity right now. This is the biggest problem we have. It's not getting to Mars, not being multiplanetary. It's use your fucking brains for good, or for whatever you think is good, because good can be perceived in different ways as well. Having said that, when it comes to companies or organizations, this is a problem, because a lot of humans are lost in this process, right? And how do you find the right ones? Because everyone wants to hire A players.
Yeah, they might be just working for a paycheck and coasting, or not putting their full dedication.
So it's a mess. Recruitment is very, 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 very difficult.
Okay, so the idea of how do you mitigate risk? So we're talking about the world moving from potential to activation, right? To people who actually do the things they want to do.
But
and the world is better because we have more thinking, and we're not just wasting.
The world will be better, because right now it's not better.
Okay.
It's getting worse.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that. Sorry, it's getting worse. Progression is not a straight line. It's a zigzag. It's a looping around. It's a revisiting.
That's a good way to put it. You're a very optimistic person. I like that.
Sometimes. But, okay, so you're saying that we're going to see a world where more people are, if they have the potential and the desire, or at least the resources to inspire them to do it, then they can have more access to other companies, other communities, other worlds. You also have the collectives.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up. So we covered a lot of war mechanics. War is bad. We hope to not have war.
No, it's great for innovation.
Let's not have war. Talent Protocol is related to the Renaissance and the movements because it is inspired by certain concepts that also Leonardo da Vinci had, where you look at the future and not just the past, and you look at yourself as a multi-dimensional being, someone that has different aspects of your life and that want to move into ambitious new territory, not knowing if it's going to work out or leave them worse off.
To put it in other words, I say Talent Protocol is like a body that is composed of many other smaller bodies that each have their own desires.
Okay, so it's like a living organism in a way.
Yes.
It's a bunch of cells that make an organ,
and
that make a body.
The blood of the organism is the token.
Okay.
It makes it live.
Which is also the analogy to patrons and who's supporting the arts and how are people supporting movements and how are people taking, let's say, potential cells that are disadvantaged and not given resources, and how do you equalize that or provide new opportunities for them to adapt and grow into something that hopefully benefits the world.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm achieving one of my goals right now by talking to you, by recording this episode.
Good job.
Thank you. Now, I didn't say I was going to edit it and publish it, but I did record it, so that's okay. And then I'm going to do my white paper. I might have the Talent Protocol community review it, tear it up, and hopefully be nice.
Destroy it in a good way. Okay. In a war-like, but for innovation, you know?
Warlike for innovation. That might be the title of this episode.
Let's do it.
All right, so we have Pedro Oliveira, CEO of Talent Protocol and outstanding member of the Portuguese startup tech community.
Does that give me like a tax breaks or something?
No, no, it does not. I don't know. It's not my territory. This is Michael Fiorentino. This is the Media Renaissance Show. Thanks for listening, and thank you for attending, and we'll see you soon.
Let's do this.